Evening everyone. I've got a little bit of I suppose, gardening DIY project that I'm going to hopefully get done tonight. Well, what do I call it? Heated propagator bench. I guess that's the best way. Heated propagator bench. Something along those lines, you get the drift. Let me show you what it is that I've bought. So, heat mat. Bought that from Northern Polytunnels, which is a UK supplier of polytunnels. A lot of horticultural items, so yeah, polytunnels, propagation materials, or propagation equipment, a lot of commercial stuff, but they also do hobby bits and pieces as well. That's not to say that there aren't other people out there doing similar things, and other heat mats are available. Let me show you. So, as I say, the one I've bought, I'm trying to get all the bits together at the same time. It's this electric heat mat, and it is 40 centimeters wide by 2 meters long. There are other size options available, but I went for that size because it should fit onto the width of my shelving or staging that I've built for my greenhouse. They do go up to 1 meter wide, but that would just be too big. I've got nowhere really to put it, so gone for that type, that dimension, and this type, because it can roll up as well when I'm not using it. So certainly during the growing season, once I'm not using the heat mat, roll it up, put it out of the way, and it won't take up too much space. That's if I want to. In addition to the mat, it comes with that, which is your thermostat box, and basically the heat mat plugs into that front socket there. You got this little probe that acts as your thermometer, which would sit, well, wherever really, but ideally it wants to sit on top of the bed that you're going to make, if you're going to make one, or underneath for your seed trays to give you a nice accurate reading. And then this unit here plugs into the power supply, you leave it turned on, and then it just clicks in and clicks out to bring the mat up to the correct temperature, a bit like your central heating, and that mat maintains a temperature to which hopefully then we encourage a bit of root growth or seedlings to grow, sprout, and just generally aid your horticultural experience. So I've said what I'm planning to do, well, kind of. Better get on and do it, I suppose. So there you can see I've cut the two side panels, or two side sections, and the couple of ends there. And like I said to you, the mat is 40 centimeters wide, so what I've actually done is I've made this internal bit 40.5 centimeters wide. Just gives me a little bit of wiggle room, but more importantly it gives a nice even number of 45 centimeters for total width there. So what I'm going to do is screw these together, and then what I'm thinking is that I'll cut some more sections of timber that will just sit inside but at the base, one at either end, and then two equally spaced, so there then supports the insulation material that I'm going to put in. So I just thought I'd show you, that's the first end just screwed on there, and all I'm using is some 50mm screws, so in that way you're going to get nice stability on those corners, and it won't fall apart or twist. So I'll do the other end and then start with the intermediate bits. So as you can see, I've got the frame put together, and I've just cut these four shorter sections, and like I say, I'm going to put those to go across at the very bottom what will be the bottom, and they will just act to one, stabilize and square up the frame, and then allow, well, the insulation to sit comfortably on top. So that's the next job, screw those in. Okay, got the two ends in, and now to do the intermediate pieces. So what I've done is I've measured from end to end, and then divided that by 3 to give me my equal measurements between these sections, and just marked on the top there. Done the same on the bottom. Now, to make sure that it then ends up square, what I've then done is measured this plank of wood to find out where the centre line is. Mark that, and then you can line up the 2 pencil marks, and if you want, use a set square or something to come down and make sure that this lines up exactly, and then that way it will be nice and square and hold together and look good. So yeah, line it up, and then let's drill it and screw it, and that'll be the base supports done then. There you have it. That's the base section all complete, nice and solid, nice and square. Next is to get some insulation. And this is the insulation that I'm going to be using. So it's called Celotex, although other brands are available. And you can see it has this foil backing to it that's on both sides, and then within the middle is this sort of high density foam, if you like, so it acts as a really good insulation. So even this, it's only 25 millimeters thick, but actually that is in terms of building, that's the equivalent of about 60 centimeters of the old traditional rock wall. And that is just a leftover piece that I've got from when we've done some building work on the house. And all I'm going to do is just cut some sections that will then fit into the base of this Propagator unit. So once again, it's just making use of some old materials that you've got laying around. But you can pick this up relatively cheaply if you need to buy it new. But it's worth having a look for, because builders always have it as sort of waste products. Anyway, mark it out using a spirit level just to get you a straight line. Use it, so mark it out, mark pen, spirit level, and then on this thickness you can literally use a Stanley knife or a saw to cut it. If you are using a saw, make sure you put on a mask, because it can get a little bit dusty. Just using the Stanley knife then, cut the first section of Celotex down, and all I'm going to do now is cut it down a touch more so that it sits halfway onto this plank. I've got plenty of it, so then I can just cut another small section that will then fill there. But that way, by finishing your piece of insulation over on your support, you know that it's going to be nice and stable. It's not going to suddenly drop out on you, or whatever or start moving. So it's going to be nice and secure, and it just make a tidy finish. Right, and there you have it. That's the insulation down, looking quite tidy. Next, well, let's get some polythene on it. Now, just before we put the polythene on, it's worth considering at this point as to whether you want to make a cutout for your electrics to run. So I've just laid this out temporarily, as you can see. Obviously, if you're wanting to have this as a totally waterproof area, then you don't really want to make too many cuts. Having said that, you could always cut a section out, run your cable in, and then put your sheeting over the top, which is what I'm going to do. Or alternatively, if it's going to be a permanent thing, then you could always run some silicone or alternative waterproofing sealant around that. But for the time being, so before I get too far ahead and start chopping into other things, I'm going to just mark out either side of here, make it nice and snug, and just cut a section out of the timber to allow this cable to and the whole mat to then sit flatter, and it just give you a nice tidy finish that way. Once again, just got some leftover bits and pieces, so this is just some polythene, and all I'm going to do is just take out the Celotex insulation, wrap it in the polythene, and then that way the polythene will keep everything nice and clean, and yeah, gives a nice smooth clean finish on which to lay the Propagator unit. So it's more or less the right length. I've got a little bit more polythene there, so I can just cut a small section just to tidy up that end, and yeah, really that would just finish it up quite nicely. And that's with it wrapped in the polythene, and it is a little bit fiddly, but all I've done, let me just show you, is to tighten it up, just turn it upside down, and then you can just pull on the polythene sheeting just sort of to get it as tight as possible and as flat as possible. And essentially now we can just lay the heat mat down onto this, which I shall do now. So you can see the heat mat's in position, nice and tidily, and all I've got is I've got some capillary matting that I bought, and so it comes as 60 centimeters wide. You can get it from most garden centres or DIY type places, even online. And so fiddly bit now is I'm just going to cut it to fit this channel, and then that can extend out. And the reason I'm topping this off with capillary matting is that it will retain some moisture, but without sitting wet, if you know what I mean. And unlike when you use sand, the capillary matting always has this slightly dry feel to it, and so it retains the warmth rather than being a cold wet. Again, if you can understand what I'm meaning. So it just gives you that nice controlled release of moisture. It's there really to absorb excess moisture, as opposed to being used to really wet the plants with or from. So as I say, I'm going to cut it down now, and then that can just sit on top, and that will complete the heated bed. Right, so we're indoors, snuck indoors with this unit. Don't tell my wife, but just to cut this down I needed to use her dressmaking scissors. So that's the capillary matting down and in, and you can see it's quite a nice tidy finish. And you know, once we get some plants on here, then that'll flatten out quite nicely. So considering that it's all recycled, repurposed materials other than the mat itself, I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, and that's the control unit there. So that is the thermostat, and all that happens is that plug there from the heat mat plugs into there, which in turn plugs into your power supply, and then from here you can then turn it on and set to your required temperature, and the thermostat, which is this bit, kicks in and out as required to bring the temperature up to the correct amount. And the temperature sensor, or the thermometer end, is here, and all you need to do then is you just position it so that that will then sit somewhere on the mat, ideally say under a tray of plants or something like that, and that will give you a nice accurate reading then of what you would need the temperature to be. And that's it, finished. Okay, so that is me finished. One propagation heat bench finished. you know, should make a big difference, I think, to me for doing my cuttings and well, certainly garden bits and pieces. Should make big difference to success rate and timings as well. And you know, for the fact that actually all it's cost me is the heat mat itself, I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out. And yeah, hopefully inspire a few of you to give it a go and try and do your own. You know, you haven't got to get the mat, obviously, from the people I did, but you know, it is a nice mat. There's plenty of alternative, cheaper options out there. So yeah, definitely give it a go if you're serious into doing your gardening and horticulture. But without rambling too much, if you've got any questions, not quite sure how to do this project, or indeed on something else that's sort of horticultural related, or even a little bit of DIY, then please send me across a message. I'll do my best to answer the questions for you. If you like what I'm doing with this channel, then please subscribe. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so you don't miss out on all the future videos that I'm doing. And as I always say, just have fun. You know, enjoy what you're doing, and you know, there's plenty of interesting and good projects to be had. So till the next time, there you go, and see you soon. Bye for now.